Environmental groups say their right to speak out freely is now under attack by the government. One of these groups, ForestEthics, has decided on a new solution. They will split in two to avoid new rules that may penalize them for speaking out. Is the government using the threat of removing the charitable status in order to silence its critics, or is it right to rein in organizations that are using charitable donations to then pick partisan fights? Let's get a view on what happened at ForestEthics. Prominent lawyer Clayton Ruby is representing ForestEthics. He joins me now from Toronto. Mr. Ruby, good to have you on the program. Why has ForestEthics decided to split in half? Explain what's happened here.
You've got to understand the context, because it's a response to the context. Organizations like the National Roundtable on the Environment and the Economy have been canned by the government. $5 million a year. They'll produce no more reports from business and environmentalists. Hundreds of inspectors who protected us from the environmental depredations of large companies fired, gone. The tax rules, $8 million set aside to investigate environmental groups. This is what government looks like when it's entirely owned by foreign-controlled oil companies. And so we have to do something. And the answer is that what the protection of the environment requires is not silence, which is what this government would like, but rather speech and more advocacy, more persuasion, more pressure on government.
But I mean, look, I just want to make sure, the government says, I mean, you're obviously interpreting this, they say they're not doing that, they're trying to, I'll use their words here, they're saying they're streamlining the process to make sure it doesn't get bogged down, and they've had some views that groups outside of Canada have used their charitable status, both here and outside of Canada, to essentially hold up energy projects, and they're trying to streamline it. That's their view. You view this as an attack on environmental groups?
Well, it is an attack on environmental groups. They view it as a justified attack. But the truth is that the more we have environmental hearings that are meaningful, conducted by experts, the better protected Canadians are, our forests are, our lands, our animals, our waters. Because quite simply, when the tar sands emits pollution into the air, it's all over the waters and lakes of Saskatchewan. And you need experts to examine that. And you can't say to them, do it in a matter of weeks, do it in a few months.
So I had Brad, just on that, I had Brad Well, the Premier, on the show about an hour ago. I asked him that same question. I mean, he supports this because he said, look, the province has rigorous environmental protection. We don't need duplication. That's why he supports this.
Sure, and he likes it because he's doing the same with potash, and because he's got his own interests in the environment by way of exploitation. But they're going to shove environmental protection off on Prince Edward Island. How do you think Prince Edward Island is going to afford to stand up to a large oil company who wants to drill off its coast? How many billions are they going to spend on that in opposition to the oil companies and to insist on good, rigorous scientific evidence? The answer is they can't afford it. This is a shock.
All right, so tell me exactly. So now you've split this in two. So how will this function? And is this the new model? This response then to make sure that you can both still have a charitable status, but still obviously be outspoken about it. How does this function now?
Well, instead of looking over your shoulder all the time to see if you're spending more than 10% of your income on advocacy, we're going to separate it into two groups. One will provide solutions, and it will be a charitable organization. It will do investigations and research and publish and provide information and solutions. The advocacy organization that I'm going to be on the director of is an organization that is going to pressure government. We're going to do it in an unabashed and open way, because what the depredations that the oil companies and others are placing on Canadians require is really strong advocacy. What the government wants is to hear nothing about it. That's why they fire the inspectors. They don't want anyone looking to see what's happening. They want no scientific evidence brought to bear. They want hearings that are really
So if someone wants to donate to ForestEthics, now there's two. So Canada Revenue Agency basically says there's two distinct groups, one and then another. And if you want to donate to ForestEthics, that won't be the advocacy group. Is that how it works?
No, if you want to donate to ForestEthics Advocacy, you're free to do so. You're just not going to get the tax break that's involved. And we're confident that people who care about the environment enough to donate to us will in fact do it despite the fact that they don't get a tax break. If there's somebody who really cares about the tax break, by all means let them donate to ForestEthics solutions.
But I mean, how do you distinguish between the two? You're clearly working together. I mean, you've erected this wall between the two, but you're clearly on the same issues. It's the same fundamental group of people. I mean, is this a technicality that the Revenue Agency has to get over? You know, is this just a legal way to get around it? Because still, clearly you're the same organization still.
We are organizations with similar goals, but we have separate staffs and separate board of directors, and we'll make our own decisions separately. We'll work together with others in the field who care about our concerns, as we always have done. But we're going to spend money on advocacy, and we're going to spend it without the benefit of any tax dollars. Thank you very much. The other group will produce information and will get the charitable benefit, small though it is.
You know, currently a charity can only devote 10% of its budget to advocating for political causes. It strikes me now that Forest Ethics Advocacy will become more partisan, more outspoken on things like the Northern Gateway Pipeline. Is that what we're going to see, in fact, the rhetoric going up?
Well, it should go up because the problems are huge and we're not meeting them adequately, especially with the government restrictions. We've got to do more and we will do more. The Constitution guarantees free speech. And it guarantees free speech on political issues. That advocacy is the essence of a democracy. And we're going to be sure that we're there making the point that protection of the environment is the #1 priority for Canadians.
All right. And is this a model, what you've done on forest ethics, is this a model for other groups?
Sure. It can be one model. Others will be David Suzuki's model, where he's driven out of his own organization. Others will think of other ways of dealing with this. But what is clear is that people who care about the environment, and care about a government that is controlled by foreign oil companies, we're not going to shut up. We're going to give more speech, not less.
Well, when you say government's controlled by oil companies, I can see the advocacy's already begun. This thing's only going to get hotter. All right, Clayton Ruby, we'll talk to you more in the future. I appreciate your time today. A very interesting new development on how this is unfolding. Thanks so much.